Welcome everybody to the Color Lights World project that has been founded 1 year ago, and to this panel tonight, the deep beauty of color and light. With our panelists, Montaha Hidefi from Canada, Christiane Werzowa from Austria, Dr. Kaustav Sengupta from India, and Lien Potgieter from South Africa, and myself from Vienna, Austria. The Color Lights World project has been founded 1 year ago by myself. It's an initiative of bringing together international color light experts between California, the US, South Africa, Europe, Asia, and Japan. I started this off a couple of months after the start of the pandemic because my and our aim is to spread the beautiful energy of color and light, the inspiration, the healing, and also the knowledge about color and light. And tonight, I'm very excited to have this very broad range of international experts who are going to be panelists now. Of course, it's like that. Every one of these panelists is an expert and could speak for hours. And we have prepared very special questions for you about the deep beauty of color and light and many areas where the deep beauty of color and light plays a role. I also want to present myself because I'm going to do the introduction to this evening today. I'm based in Vienna, Austria. I'm a holistic color consultant since more than 30 years and a color light therapist since 27 years, pioneering this work in Austria and internationally. Color and light are my vocation and my calling. I'm really passionate about that. I'm also a systemic constellation facilitator, and I've been working the past 6 to 7 years internationally, bringing together international experts, also as member of the board and past president of the International Light Association. I'm also author of the book In the Beginning There Was Red, and the proud initiator of this lovely initiative, Spreading Color and Light. Yes, and I want to give you an intro about my key insights about color and light and how we came to this title, The Deep Beauty of Color and Light. As I understand color and as I experience color more than 30 years, color and light have impacts on at least 4 levels. And I want to go through very briefly all 4 levels. The 4 levels are the aesthetics, the psychology, the therapy and the energetic field of color and light, and the spirituality. And I am working on all these fields. Well, everything alive is colored, actually. Only the fading of life is pale or dark. The beauty of color touches us deeply, and we all experience the beauty and the harmony of colors in nature. Actually, we all strive for this harmony we really know well from nature. In my experience as color consultant and personal color consultant, I've seen how deep this beauty goes, because wearing colors that suit you well also has 3 effects. On the aesthetics, it's a joy to see how the people are radiating and blooming in their individual colors that suit them well. But what is completely underestimated and not known, the colors of our clothing also have a strong psychological impact. Because when people wear colors that also suit their personality, it supports a lot the non-verbal communication and gives an impression of them of being very authentic. It's like when people are wearing colors that are good for them, it's as if they have to explain themselves less. Because as we all know, the non-verbal communication is more than 80%. And color helps a lot to give the authentic impression about yourself. I've worked with therapists and also medical doctors on this field, the personal color consulting, and have experiences with the fact that, because on the psychological level, the color we like to wear helps us to say yes to ourselves. Because one of the initiators of color consulting, Johannes Itten, said to lead a person to recognize her colors means leading her to herself. So it includes a saying yes to yourself when you are wearing colors from which you know that they are good for you. And I have I had feedback from a psychologist I was working with that the personal color consulting was decisive for the therapy of a woman. I've been working with physicians also regarding the color for clothing. And I had a client that had an illness. And after the color consulting, she started wearing her group of colors that are excellent. And the medical doctors called me 3 months after that and said to me, he's completely fascinated, because he attended a workshop with me many years prior to that, because the illness or the issue of this patient has grown better very fast, and the medication works better and faster. So you see, the colors of our clothes are actually a form of color therapy. That's why I'm calling that holistic color consulting. I'm also experienced with colors in interior design, which I love to do. It's really fascinating to see how you can transform rooms and offices only by using colors on walls, because colors have an influence on the lighting of rooms, and colors influence the room size and also the furniture that is already there in a very positive way. And it is already, meanwhile, there are scientific studies proving that there's one study I've been talking about at my last talk in 2019. It can be seen on my YouTube channel. There was one study made that proving that using certain colors in hospitals for intensive care had strong effects on the health of the patients, on the medications that were proven to be more effective, and on the feeling of the patients and the people working in these intensive care wards. So that's a scientific study done 4 years ago. And then there's one color that is famous called Baker-Miller pink that has been studied as well, because it has been proven that a certain hue of pink can be used for prisons and for police stations, because a light pink has the potential of quieting people very fast. And it is used in Switzerland and also in Germany for these purposes. So quite amazing that also in interior design, colors prove to be very effective because they have an energetic, psychologically strong effect. Yeah, the next level I want to speak briefly is the psychological. Johannes Itten said, leading a person to find his colors means leading her to herself. And working with color has the potential of making yourself discover yourself and also your hidden sides and maybe your resources. And we are going to hear today from various panelists that, of course, there are some cultural and geographical differences regarding color meanings and color symbolism. I have to watch my own time. On the energetic level and therapeutic level, I've been working now 27 years with 3 different kinds of chromotherapy and color therapy, and it's really fascinating how effective that is. In traditional medicine, light therapy is already more recognized, but of course the principle of action and of effect of color light therapy is the same than light therapy, because we are talking about energy. And if you take a look at the web page PubMed, you will see that in the last 30 years, there have been more than 16,000 entries about chromotherapy. Quite impressive. So I think chromotherapy is on the way of being recognized also scientifically. In my personal experience, I can say it is excellent for boosting the immune system. It's excellent for preventing SAD, seasonal affective disorder. It's a wonderful companion for treating depression. And it's wonderful for any kind of stress-related disease and stress-related symptoms. And by the way, it also can have the effect of bettering the eyesight, colored light. So these are a few experiences. In chromotherapy, you find as well practitioners working more on the psychological level, but you also find medical doctors and physicians treating illnesses and ailments with color light therapy. Yes, last level, the spiritual level, color always means light. And I love the saying of Goethe, colors are children of light and light is essential to life. And if we allow the thought that every matter is condensed or frozen light, we can also say that we humans are condensed light. And it's also proven already that healthy cells communicate with each other via light impulses. This is science. So we can say we are light, and I believe that we are all the colors of light because we do have the colors of light within us. And color and light played a long time an important role in mysticism, in religion, and in spirituality. And it helps us to discover our inner light, which brings us to our inner self and to our soul. And if that happens, then happiness happens and the people can feel bliss because they have the feeling of getting home and feeling at home without themselves. So that's the potential of color and light, really amazing. I'm personally fascinated by that. And I believe that color and light is going to be the cure and the medicine of the present and future. Yes, and now we are coming to our first panelist. Dear Montaha, maybe you want to show yourself so that we can see you. Hi, Montaha. Can you say something so that we can see you?
Hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here today with everyone else that loves color like me, and thank you, Gabriele, for having me in the panel.
And
And what can I say? Color unites us.
Wait, Montaha, I have the pleasure of first presenting you and then we can start. Montaha Hidefi from Canada. She's the founder of the Color Landing Studio and she's an internationally distinguished color archaeologist and public speaker. In her profession, she observes past color tendencies to understand present trends and interpret future color forecasts, aiming to enhance consumer experience and boost happiness into our planet. She is born and raised in Venezuela to Syrian parents. Montaha lived and worked as an expert in many continents before settling in Canada. She has a background in the coatings industry, color forecasting, marketing strategy, and international business. And she develops color trends and concepts for companies around the world. Montaha serves as Vice President for Color Forecasting on the Executive Committee of Color Marketing Group and as Vice President on the Board of Directors of the Canadian Freelance Guild. So welcome, Montaha.
Thank you.
So Montaha, you are a color archaeologist. How did you come up with this color designation and what does it mean to be a color archaeologist?
Oh, that's a question I get all the time. So I actually wanted a name that describes in an accurate way what I do. And on the other side, I also wanted to stand out of the crowd, obviously. So if we look at an archaeologist, the work that they do is they work with human history and prehistory. They excavate and they analyze the artifacts and other physical remains that they find. In my profession, I also do have to examine and observe the past color tendencies. Not as a historian, obviously, because I'm not writing the history, but as a researcher. And I do this so I can understand what's happening now with the present trends and so I can predict the future color direction. And so this is very similar to what an archaeologist does. The only difference is the medium. I don't work with remnants of the past, I work with color.
Montaha, you do a lot of color research. Can you tell us about some of your color research?
Well, in research, we find a lot of things, but maybe because of the time limitation of this panel and the time that I am allowed to speak today, I'm going to focus on three main things that I find very interesting about color. And those things are that color is related to the generations. So we can say color is generational, color is cultural, and also is cyclical. It means it has a cyclic aspect. And I can explain what I'm saying. So when it comes to the first part, that color is related to the generation, and that's because color communicates what the interest and the concerns of a generation are. And just to make this much simpler, I can provide an example of the millennial pink. And I'm sure that everybody here have heard of millennial pink in the past. And so the millennial pink, it was considered and it's still considered as a pop culture phenomenon in the last decade, obviously. And it was called millennial pink because it manifested the interest and the concerns of the millennials. But it wasn't only used by the millennials, it basically spread over many generations and many genders and many industries. And how it all came about, basically, it all started with rose gold. And we started seeing rose gold in jewelry around 2011, 2012, because they wanted to introduce something new in the jewelry industry. And then in 2016, Apple came in and introduced the iPhone 6 in rose gold. And basically, because of the influence that Apple has on the market, it influenced a lot of industries, not only the millennials. So that color pink, rose gold, became connected to the millennials. And I think, in my opinion, they wanted basically, it has something to do with the psychology, because they wanted to protest against many things that were going on around 2015, 2016 that were very depressing. For instance, if we remember, many celebrities died at that time, like David Bowie, Carrie Fisher, Leonard Cohen, Frank Sinatra, etc. There were a lot of shootings also. We all remember the Paris shootings. There were the Brexit year. There was the U.S. elections in 2016. So people wanted really to focus on something positive. And then, but that trend started fading in 2019 when we saw the Gen Z coming into the market, and they wanted to break free, obviously, with the older generation. So we saw then the start of Gen Z yellow coming up. And so for Gen Z, they preferred yellow because yellow is much warmer and it has more energy. So it represented the mood of their generation. So basically, each generation wants to pick colors that talk about them, that are connected to them. So that's how I see color as a generational. When it comes to the cultural side or aspect of color, obviously you just mentioned, and we all know that each culture can interpret colors in a different way. But today I'm going to focus only on the color orange as an example about this. So when we relocated to the Netherlands in 2008, and I didn't know this before, I came to know that the color orange basically is a symbol of the Netherlands. And it's basically the color of the Dutch family because they come from the house of Oranje. But if we go to Ireland, orange is associated with the Northern Irish Protestants. And in India, for instance, orange is associated with Hinduism. It represents the sacral chakra. And also in the Indian flag, it represents courage and sacrifice. If we go to Japan and China, it has to do with courage and happiness and prosperity. And if we come back to Canada, orange is associated with the remembrance of the loss of the First Nations, Inuits, and the Métis children in the residential schools. And so we use orange to honor them and think about them. And my last part of this aspect of color is the cyclic aspect of color. And so we do see that color cycle back because of the similarities that society has, and because of new generations that that come into the market and bring in the colors that they are not familiar with. Maybe a good example of this is in the 70s, we saw the use of avocado green, which was very well known and used. And so now what we do, we are seeing the color green coming back, but it's not similar. It's not called avocado green. It's referred to as like guacamole or sage or moss or even thyme or olive green. And so that is part of the cyclic aspect of color. We are also seeing colors coming back that were used post 9/11 and post the financial crisis in 2009. And the reason for that also is because we are nostalgic to past times, and right now, any time is better than the present.
Wow, Montaha, speaking about color is cultural. You are a very multicultural lady and person. So can you give us an example of differences in color symbolism and meanings in the Middle East, in Venezuela, South America, and in Canada?
That is a very interesting question. And I think one example about this could be the colors of mourning. And so, as I grew up in Venezuela in the 60s, the color of mourning was mainly black. And so, black in Venezuela is used in the first phase of mourning, and we call it luto. And the first phase of mourning is when the grief is very intense. And so, it is black symbolizes that black hole of grief. And then after that, there is a second phase of mourning, which we refer to as medio luto or half mourning. And then in this phase, basically the grieving period is less intense. So the people grieving can use black and white. So they almost slowly break the darkness of the morning. And then after the black and white period, by breaking, they cannot just go and use, for instance, wear red or I don't know, pink or something. They go and use purple. And so purple becomes like a transitional color between the morning colors and coming back to using all colors. But when I moved to Syria, the first thing I noticed was that the Muslim women wearing the black hijab had nothing to do with mourning. But also black was considered as a color of mourning, but did not have faces like in Venezuela, obviously. And purple didn't have anything to do with grieving in that time. And so now, if we come back so many years later, and I lived in many countries and now in Canada, so we all know black is no longer considered the only mourning color. Black is very elegant, is used to convey luxury messages. And incidentally, a big part of my wardrobe is black. And also, incidentally, the color marketing group, we just announced that black will be a key color for 2024. So this maybe shows some examples of how a color can have different connotations. But I also, if I have time, and I do still have 2 minutes, I want to give an anecdote. When I came to Guelph, well, before we relocated to Guelph, and I was interviewing for the job that we relocated for, I came to Guelph for the interview, and I was living in the Netherlands, and all the offices in that company were painted in beige. And obviously, to me, beige was like no. It's still a no color. And so I had to negotiate with the CEO. Together, it was like negotiating my contract. A part of my contract was a condition that I do not accept the job unless the CEO will allow me to paint the color of my office different than beige. And it was approved actually, and I did change the color of my office. And well, there's a different story after that, but that was done.
Yeah, that's a lovely example for us wanting colors and not wanting other colors. Yes. So, dear Montaha, the last question we have to kind of put together because I'm watching the time. So, companies from around the world come to you to develop color forecasting. What is color forecasting, and why do companies need color forecasting?
Well, simply put, and because of time limitations, the color forecasting is the work that we do behind the scenes before color trends are announced and seen in the market, basically. It's a process, that it's a methodology that we follow that includes, again, research, monitoring the past, looking into the present, and knowing what will happen into the future. I'm going here short because of time limitations. Okay, and why do companies need a color forecast? It's very simple. We know that over 80% of our purchasing decision making is based on color, and so we do. Oops, sorry. I'm turning my clock off. We do know that this decision making happens unconsciously in the mind in the first seconds when we see a product and we want to make a decision. And so let's say if companies don't know about color forecasting, they don't know what color trends are going to come into the future. Let's say if the forecast says blue is going to be big next year, but this company is not aware of that, and they produce, I don't know, shirts or t-shirts or whatever it is, clothing, but then they produce their clothing in yellow or maybe green, and they put that in the market next year. And so who is going to buy yellow and green if the trend is going to be blue? And so color forecasting is good for companies so they can make a decision related to their productivity, their supply chain, and to know what the market is going to connect to and what the market is going to be asking for. I think I'm going to stop here so I don't take from the other panelists' time.
Thank you so much, Montaha. We will have time by the end of the panel for Q&As. Meanwhile, if you want, you can write your questions into the chat. And at the end of the panel, you can direct your questions directly to one panelist. Of course, there's so much more to explore. Feel free, of course, also to contact the panelists directly for questions. So thanks for the first part. Now we are coming to our next wonderful panelist. Hello, Dr. Kaustav Sengupta. Can you show yourself and maybe say something, Kaustav?
Hello to all. It's fascinating to see you all here, and we are looking forward to discuss about color here itself.
Yes, so I'm going to present Kaustav. He is an academica, sorry, a color spiritualist, historian, and social worker. Dr. Kaustav Sengupta has published more than 30 articles, papers, chapters, etc. in the last 2 decades. He's credited with 2 theories in the domain of color psychology and social ecosystem. His doctoral study is in the domain of color and how it impacts young people in India. He's the founder of the Color Association of India, a national body of color researchers, and a trustee of InkLink Charitable Trust, an NGO that enables creative education for crime-affected and underprivileged children in India. InkLink, recognized by the UNICEF, runs a makeshift not-for-profit street school project fondly called as Morning Lights for past 8 years in India, and has been able to engage more than 2,850 children. His deep study and practices on color and its role in spiritual well-being have enabled him to conduct multiple color karma workshops across India. So, dear Kaustav, here comes the first question. You are from such a colorful and plural country like India. How do you define color?
That's interesting. In India, we define ourselves through color. So I will just explain this in 3 segments. And I may be slightly varying from the other speakers, because in India, we don't consider color as an individual identity. We normally consider color as a color story. So, and we also consider color with heat. So you will see all those interesting foods in India, those happy foods in India will have brighter color. But when we present them, we don't present them individually, we present them as a story. So you'll see a brighter red along with a lot of yellow, and then you will have a white and a touch of green. So in our context of color, it's not only single color, it's all those colors which are associated together. We call them as a color story. In other segment, I will also try to emphasize here that in India, darkness is also a very powerful color. Because many of our gods are dark, and darkness is not bad because it's a very positive aspect of life. We have even defined a color segment for darkness. We call them Shama. Shama is it's a feminine gender. For masculinity, we call them Sham, and all the darker color comes under that. And for us, darkness can be blackest of the black and can be the bluest of the blue. And for both of them, we call them Sham. It comes under the same segment. So you will see a few Indian gods in blue color. They can be either blue or they can be black, but they comes into the same family of the color story. And that is where we define darkness along with the whiteness as aspect of color. Also for us, color is slightly broader because we normally define the same color with multiple aspects. I'll just give you an example. There's a book called Chitra Sutra. You can download it as a PDF. It's there online. It's a 5th CE book. And then it has defined in 5th CE that color white or the whiteness can have 12 different types of whites. And similarly, the darkness can be also have 12 different darknesses. So if you see that it's very plural country. And similarly, we define colors also with that kind of a plurality in the aspect towards the understanding of color.
How important is color in the context of spirituality, especially as per Indian practices?
With color, I am working for almost 2 decades and must tell you that I understood that color can enhance the human consciousness. And that is exactly what I practice with the children. When we try to work with children with ADHD or any kind of imbalance in their behavior, color is one very good tool to balance them up and make them soothe and settle down. So we understand color can actually raise your consciousness towards the spirituality. A very good example of this is the aura, what we have around us. And if you introduce a new color in that aura, it actually can impact the balance of the color. That is why you will see most of them who walks in the spiritual path will not go for a brighter color. They either goes for a monotone, muted color or something which will not impact their color balance. And that is why the color spirituality is also very important. But in Indian context, we understand color in relationship with the chakra. You must be knowing that we have 7 chakras, but the 7 chakras are basically divided into 112 different subchakras. And these 112 subchakras are defined with 16 dimensions. And all the dimensions and chakras are having certain color scenarios. For example, if you talk about Muladhara, our basic chakra, which is basically on what we stand on. Are we confident? We are very confident, not confident. Are we being able to communicate? You are not being able to communicate. Basically being done in Muladhara or base chakra or root chakra, which is defined with color red, the color of blood. Similarly, we have a chakra called, we have a chakra called third eye, chakra, which is basically defined with Aina chakra. That means our eye chakra, which is defined with color indigo, which is a color of dream or the color of defining darkness towards a different aspect, or how you can think beyond what is being thought. So color can actually affect our spiritual existence depending on how we are attaching ourselves with certain color auras as such.
Mm-hmm. Kaustav, can our color preferences define our spiritual self?
Yes, it is, because color can not only spiritual self, but also our personas, because there are a lot of methodologies being practiced in across the world. But interestingly, it is also related to the kind of persona what we have. In Indian context, we have something called Guna. Gunas are basically from Hindu practice. We call them Gunas and Prakritis. We normally have 3 types of Gunas. We have either Satvik, which is basically a very peaceful and balanced Guna. And we also have something called Rajasic, which is basically an aggressive Guna. And we also have Tamasic, which is very related to anger and disbalance. And all these Gunas are related to color. Normally, Satvik is defined with white, Rajasic is defined with red and the hues of red, and Tamasic is black or dark. Here, the darkness is not bad. The darkness is about not being balanced. Sometimes we need to be in imbalance to raise our consciousness. And that is where the darkness comes in as very important aspect as such. So those gods you will see in Indian context related to consciousness, they are mostly shown as dark. And that is where the darker side of elements comes in. So you can see that the personas can be defined with the color what we reflect or we prefer. It can also change depending on what kind of preferences we are moving, because normally our color preference can also evolve with time. It also shows our personas are changing because it can define the amount of aura we are reflecting around us.
Can you please repeat what is Guna? I don't know if I missed that.
Yeah, Gunas and Prakritis are basically the way we define personas. It's a Shamyak Hindu practices where it is being defined as a human being will have one set of gunas. And then the most prominent one is what we reflect. And that gunas can be also corrected or balanced with the color what we being used at that time. Yeah.
Kaustav, in your experience, can color heal us?
It can, because for thousands of years it's being practiced across the world. In India, there are evidences it's being practiced. In Egypt, it's being practiced. In Rome, it is being there. So especially it is being practiced with a process called color immersion. And color immersion is being there with us for long. In India, we have a festival we call them holy, where we used color, especially the herbal colors, to throw on each other. It's almost like, you know, throwing your inhibition out and just merge yourself with color. I don't like that, but you know, that's also one kind of a persona, that you have to break your barrier and jump into the color. You know, so color can heal us depending on if we are ready to get healed. That's also a very important part, because we have to be unboxing ourselves to accept that kind of energy which comes to us.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Kaustav, do you think color can become one of the most crucial tools to imbibe mental health, well-being and positivity?
Yes, it can, because scientifically it's being proven, those who's actually going through acute depression, they are more tense or they are more inclined to colors like grays and darker color. Interestingly, it is not towards black, which earlier used to be thought that those who is into depression, they will like black. They are not liking black, they like grays. So it's not also blues. Blues are also not the color of depression. So there is a defined color band which shows that it can actually reflect what we are feeling. So color can be used not only to map our mental state, it can also use to heal ourselves by actually balancing our chakra. And that can be done with simple color therapies, which can be around us. And the color therapies can be done even at home, where we are bringing just gardens in and you bring in a lot of greens together. That's also a color therapy part. You don't need to go through a clinical process through it. You know, so yes, it can. But interestingly, as Montaha was telling, that color is something which can impact an industry. Similarly, that's also a process where the colors are defined. Because if you see that Pantone released a color set which actually had two colors, it has a yellow and a gray, because the gray is basically balancing the yellow. That was the illumination color what they released last year. Interestingly, that also shows what kind of healing the industry is requiring at this moment. It is not only individuals, it's also about a group or a society or an industry as broad. So yes, it is necessary. Especially in countries like India, Japan, America, where depression is going very high. 1 out of 6 is depressed in this context. Color healing can help us a lot. And that can be a simple solution around us. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you, Kaustav. So looking forward to the questions that are coming.
Sure.
Yeah, the panelists can also look forward to our white paper, or called color paper, that you are going to receive together with the replay after this session in the next days. So thanks for now, Kaustav. Lovely. Yes, and now I'm presenting our next panelist, Lien Potgieter from South Africa. Lynn, can you say something that we see you?
Hi, Gabrielle. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here.
Yes. Welcome, Lynn. She is from South Africa, Johannesburg, and she is a communication specialist, a color therapist, and a creativity consultant and expert. She's an a minute kind of creative and loves to use color to help people live a healthier, happier life and co-create with the universe. She published the book Get Color Conscious and Transform Your Experiences, and offers color readings and personal development consultations online. So welcome, Lynn, and here we go with your first question. Lynn, I've done with you a color assessment test that I found very interesting. Can you tell us about the color assessment, your story in color? By the way, that reminds me what Kaustav has said about color stories. Yeah, so your specific assessment test, your story in color, you are working with. What insights and results do you have with clients when you work with this test?
Okay, so your story in color is all about your life experiences and what has shaped you up to now into the being or the human that you are now. So I use color to tell that story. And so what I've learned from this thing is that there's nothing else more powerful than color to to actually get to know yourself very well and on a very, very deep level. So your story in color can tell you about your physical ailments or challenges and where it comes from, your emotional stuff, mental gifts and challenges, and then also spiritual stuff. But what I find most amazing about your story in color, and when I do this assessment, is that you can actually determine at what age you got a wound. So we all have this one thing that's probably affecting us up to an old age, unless we face that thing. And with your story in color, I can get to that, the heart of the matter or the core of that thing that's actually ruling your life or governing your life, unless you have let that go or unless you have brought that to the surface. So when I see clients, I love seeing the light, and that's the beauty of light and color. I love seeing the light go up in their eyes. It's like they have this amazing light bulb moment and saying, aha, you're right, this is it. And it's not me, it's the color, and it's your personal color choices that tells me the story. I am just, as a communication specialist, I am the interpreter or the translator of this story in color.
Wow, so I can recommend this color test. It's really interesting, really. And it goes deep, as I have experienced it. And Lynn, can you tell us something about your work? You also have been working a lot with colors and children.
Yes, I love children. I love how they just intuitively are attracted to color. They don't ask questions, they don't stop it, they don't block it, they just want the color. And that, but then also when they have problems, specifically at home, or something's bothering them, that also comes up in the color. So for example, I would give them all the colors of the rainbow, ask them to draw a picture. And if there's, and I know we've spoken a lot, or the other panelists have spoken a lot about black, but for me, I can immediately see that there's something if they only used the darker colors. So then I'd like to explore a little bit more and talk to them about and having them explain what they see or what does this color mean to them. I've also worked with a lot of clients with bipolar, anxiety, addiction, a lot of other psychiatric step-down facility in Johannesburg, and I've seen the power of color there. Of course, you have to be very careful, and I love color because it's gentle, but still you have to be very careful when you work with clients like that it's not overwhelming for them and take it a step by step. But for that, color is also a very gentle method or tool to get to the heart of the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now we are coming to the question, you are based in South Africa, colors in South Africa. How are colors used in your country, and are there specific colors that are used in South Africa?
So I don't know if many of you know, but we are called the Rainbow Nation. South Africa is called the Rainbow Nation, so of course we love color. We have a very colorful flag. But I have to say that mostly in South Africa, it comes down to politics and sport. So politics, you definitely know what party you would vote for just by looking at the color. So you don't even have to know the name of the political party. You just have to look at the red to know that you're going to vote for this party, or the blue or the green, because in South Africa, the political parties use color for their campaigns. So that's it's usually a very colorful event as well, an election. The other thing is sport. So we play a lot of rugby, soccer, and cricket, and all our teams have very specific colors. And you'd also just know the color of the sport, after the name of the team, based on their colors. And when you go to a stadium and you go watch a rugby match or a soccer match, you also wear that color. So in South Africa, I think it's a very, very strong connotation between sport and politics and color. And I have to say that yellow is probably our most favorite color for everybody in the Rainbow Nation, because we have a lot of sunshine, we have a lot of sunflowers, we have a lot of canola flowers from which we make oil and butter. So yellow is absolutely that very bright, happy, sunny color that reminds us of our beautiful country and our climate.
Wow. So now I'm coming to the point. Lynn, you are a creativity consultant and expert. Why creativity and why now? And can a person learn to be more creative?
Yes, I always say that I love the three C's: communication, color, and creativity. And creativity is one of the top 10 skills to have in the new world of work. So because we are so flooded and overloaded with information, we need to know what to do with this information. And this is where this mental kind of creativity comes in. So I'm currently doing a study about how color as a non-verbal language affects or boosts creativity in a corporate environment, in an office. And I love what Montaha said about painting her office a different color, because that's exactly it. Corporate offices are usually beige or gray or something like that. And I just can't see how that can boost creativity, mental creativity, and people coming up with solutions for problems and sorting out stuff and overcoming challenges. So creativity is one of the top 10 skills to have in the new world of work. And I think for life, we have to be a lot more creative these days to overcome challenges, and in a good way. So yes, you can learn to be more creative. And it's quite interesting that NASA did a study where they tested 5-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and again, 19-year-olds, the same group of children and people, and they became less creative the older they got. So we sort of, in a way, get educated out of our creativity. We are born creative, but we are not always allowed to play or think that way, or just to make, or to think, or to dream. So I think, yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and yes, we can learn to be creative again.
Yes, lovely. It comes to my mind that when I listen to you, that creativity has a lot to do with the inner child that loves colors and loves to play, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I want to see, and I know it will be different, or this is my hypothesis, it will be different across different cultures, but it must have an effect and an influence on the well-being. And why color affects our mood and our emotions. And we can only create, not only, but we can create when we are in a good space, and when we have our emotions, we are healthy on an emotional level. Only then can we create. I know that sometimes we can create out of frustration and anger, but there's also studies that show that, yes, you can create out of negativity, but the outcome is not always so positive. So we need to boost our emotions and our mood with color in order to be more creative.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Lynn. Let's see what questions we are going to receive for you. So thanks for now. And now coming to our panelist, Christiane Werzowa from Vienna, Austria. Christiane, can you say hello? Hi. So, willkommen. That's my colleague from Vienna, Christiane Werzowa. She's a yoga teacher. She's trained in psychosynthesis. She's a color consultant and has studied color design with the International Association of Color. And she has founded in Vienna her Institut für Farbe und Stil, where she works for individuals and companies as color consultant and image trainer. And she has founded the Colored Light Pyramid, a wonderful color light device in form of a pyramid, and founded the Coram Light Transform, her company. So, Christiane, what is your understanding, Christiane, of deep beauty in connection with color?
Hi, thank you to all of you. It was so beautiful to listen to what you said. So for me, the deep beauty goes really very deep, and I was very touched when I read this title. For me, is color and light enters our system unseen we just don't realize when they come in, but they change everything. You know, it touches our body, our mind, our spirituality, our spirit, everything. So this is what is the deep beauty. And the thing is, in the title, Deep Beauty, everything is in already. So color goes deep, color and light goes very deep and forms our self. And the beauty is something which is inherent in color and light, because beauty for me also has to do with relations and with numbers and everything, which you can see in the pyramid again. So this is a really good combination. This is the deep beauty of color and light for me.
Thank you. Christiane, we just had another color week.
Yes.
An initiative of the Color Lights World project. And we had in October a color week with complementary colors. Can you give us some examples about your own experience of your clients' experiences with complementaries?
Oh, that's a fine question. First of all, I really love complementaries because they open up a very wide range. And in my seminars or workshops, I could make many experiences with other people working with it. So to give some examples, in one of my workshops, I asked, we were talking about problems and everything, and you know, like it goes in workshops. And so I said, now take a piece of paper and write paint in colors your problem you were just talking about. And so they did. And there were about 12 people in this group. And then I said, please, when they have done it, I asked them to turn the paper and take the colors of the solving of the problem. And the funny thing was, out of 12 people, only one did not paint it in complementary color of the problem they had. So it was really fascinating to watch this. And the complementary colors are also so beautiful. Montaha, you will also know, when dressing up, just a little bit of complementary to your color you are wearing makes such a bright impression like you have today. Gabrielle, you're wearing complementaries today.
Oh, thank you, yes. Well, Christiane, as we know, here in Austria and in Vienna, people are not very courageous when it comes to using color personally or in their homes.
Yeah.
What is your advice to bring in more color?
Okay, that's a good question. The first thing is, now most people have white, like I have in this room, but I'm working in this room with colors, so I can't have a color there. So when you have these, if you are not courageous enough to put some color into your room, which I like with Kaustav, your background color and your color, Montaha, right now, but it's so if people are not courageous enough to put in some color on the wall, I advise to put color around, like, you know, a cushion. You can take a cushion in a color, or you can decorate with fruit, or, you know, everything. And you could have pictures or whatever you like. So flowers, of course, or nice, you know, nice things you love in color. So this is my advice, but of course, I love it more when there's color on the walls also.
Christiane, when people are coming to you for a session in the colored light pyramid, How do you find out which color is best for the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because the colored light pyramid was originally designed for meditation, and in combination with colored light, I found this is a very good combination. And now people are coming, and all of them are asking, what color should I choose when I go inside the colored light pyramid? And I prefer the non-invasive form to lead people. So either we find out together which color would be best for them, or I just show them one, there can be the color revolving system where you can see each color coming after the other. So I show it to these people and they say, oh, it's blue today or whatever. When we are talking about the problem, they are coming here and they tell me, my color I love most and I want to work with it is orange. Maybe I say, please take blue. So I'm working also with complementaries there. And very often there's a big resistance to use the complementary color, but often it's the healing color in the end. But many people just come in for joy and want to get deep into meditation or just have this beauty of colors around them. And this alone makes such a wideness and such a feeling of getting free and a feeling of getting deeper and inspiration. That's the point, that it gets so inspired by color, that it opens up your feelings, it opens up your mind. It opens, like you said, the chakras also. And you can be in your heart finally, which is the most important thing when you're meditating, being in your heart and in yourself, rooted in yourself. Yes, that's it.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's it. Very well said. Thank you. Yeah, one more question, because we really want to know from you, Christiane.
Yes.
Can you give us more tips, some more tips how to bring color into your daily life?
Yes, as I said, you can put the cushions, the flowers, everything. But a very important thing is also to think of what you are eating, because we are eating colors. We are eating a red apple or an orange or a banana or whatever. And these colors always have transport also the quality of the color inside. Like you said, when I'm eating beets, red beets, so it really has to do with our ground chakra. It has to do with blood. So it also enhances everything which we need in our body and also in our mind and in our emotions, because colors always touch our emotions. We just can't escape. That's it. And that's also the reason why it's so important that people or companies also are aware what they are doing with colors, that they are aware what they are doing to themselves when they are wearing colors or eating colors or whatever. So this is the beauty, the deep beauty of colors that makes us whole in the end. If we don't miss a color, if we reject colors. And so it's also not possible to tell you a favorite color at the moment. Yeah? It changes, yes. I'm drawn to a color for some time, then that's always what I need at the moment, but I love them all. They're like babies for me.
Wonderful. Oh, there's so much joy. So thank you, Christiane. So we are now very well in time, actually, with our schedule. And we would love you to still stay for our round of Q&A questions. We quite have some in our chat. But before starting that, you can, of course, also refer directly to the speakers. You will find their website on my website, color-buresch.at, and can also contact them directly. So let's see. We have quite some questions. And let's see if I'm... Okay, first question. What color did you paint your office, Montaha?
Yes, I saw that question, and what I did, I just shared with everyone a picture of what colors I did request the office to be painted, so you can click on it and open it. But I'm gonna say it at that moment in time. I needed creativity and I needed an impulse. I was starting a new job and everything was beige in the office. So I decided for purple, which you can see it in the picture. And that was to bring in the creativity, obviously, and not only for me, but for my team. And also it was a little bit of spots of that yellow or lemony green, and that was also to bring spurts. So the creativity will it doesn't come in one dose, but it was sparkling. But it was also a complementary of the purple. So it was just to break the monotony of an entire office in purple. It's never been seen before in Guelph. Needless to say, not everybody agreed with the color, but but it stayed there for many years until it was changed.
Okay, thank you. So now we are coming, I'm looking here to, thank you, Dr. Kaustav. Very interesting and fascinating. Where can we find the color test, Lien?
Gabrielle, it's on my website. It's called the Creative Adaptability Assessment. I will put the link in the chat.
Okay. Next question. Hi, in my office room, from Munia Aswad. In my office room and bedroom, do you recommend putting white or green blinds? Who wants to answer that? Maybe Christiane?
Oh, I mean, green is always a color which is, you know, not disturbing too much. I think it's a good choice.
Yeah. I can add to that, there are two colors that are related to quietness. It's blue and green.
Yes.
Both are quiet, and green is regarded as the color of absolute quietness because it has also an effect on hearing. So if you have noisy rooms, please use green, but more a clear green. And blue is also the color of quietness, but it's more related to inner quietness and concentration. So normally both are recommended for sleeping rooms, but you have to consider that blue is a cool color. So if you like warmth in your bedroom, maybe blue is not the best choice.
And if I may add to that, because it's a bedroom, office room at the same time, so it's a mixed use. So you need obviously a color that will be soothing for sleeping environment, but you also need a color that will be energetic for the office parts of, or the office aspect of the room. So depending on where that office area is in the room, in that corner, or that maybe one wall can have something energetic, so you can see that color during your office hours, and the other part of the room will be more quiet to go to sleep.
Good idea. Yeah. So here comes an interesting one. Question for panelists. How would you explain development of synesthesia on scientific and spiritual level. Wow.
Wow.
So who wants to say something about that?
You want me to add here?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is a very interesting question because I mean, we face it, being color researchers, we face it, saying that how much scientific it is, or how science talks about color. Because when you go to science, they will talk about pigments, they'll talk about dyes, they will talk about, emulsion. But when it comes to, our understanding of color, it's more about human nature, about how our mind works. So I describe it in a very interesting way, because normally science is basically a logical explanation of things what normally happens in our life. So spirituality is something which we experience, and science tries to explain that. So when it comes to understanding, say, we all know that depression do have a color, or depression, excuse me, my dog is barking, so we have to bear that. It's midnight anyway. So what happens interestingly is that science tries to explain things around us, and at certain time maybe we understand that more than explanation we read experience, and that is where our spirituality comes there. And then spirituality is more about self and others, and science is about putting it into numbers and trying to understand it. So as I was telling, that depression is something which we understand that can be reflected through color. But science goes to test it, says that gray is the color which normally reflects someone who is acute in depression. So if you want to go through that process, both are synerging at certain point, but spirituality is more about going beyond science and trying to understand self, mostly to develop the consciousness towards understanding. And that is where, I understand consciousness. I'll just give you a very interesting example, which is around me. We all know that this is a sculpture of Nataraja. It's a small one, but this can come in larger. So when it comes to spirituality, we talk about a consciousness, about somebody coming up and showing their reflection. When it comes to science, that talks about how it is an arrestation of a movement, and how a particular circulation movement being stopped, how the hands and bones are being made, how it is not a male nor female, that kind of a structure. That is how science defines it. But spirituality defines about how somebody's consciousness can come up by the form of a dance as such. So we can define them together as such. Yeah. Somebody can add, please.
Wow. So it comes to my mind, came to my mind while you were speaking, Kaustav. Color and light builds a bridge between the rational and intuitive sciences.
Right.
Right.
And
Yes.
that's why it is so fascinating, because it has so many levels of impact and energy and meanings.
Also, I must add here that the color impacts our subconscious nature, which is not defined our conscious nature of science. So when color impacts us, we don't understand. For example, many of you must be not liking certain colors. Like I don't like certain shades of blue, and we don't know why we don't like it. But when you go deeper into your experience, you must be having some experience with that color at certain other negative level, which actually impacts our subconscious understanding of color. I normally tell that if somebody is being stung by a bee, he may not like, or she may not like, the color combination of black and yellow for the whole life, because the experience comes out always. So it's a subconscious understanding of color.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, and I would like to add to that, actually, it's not the colors we love that bring us forward. The most interesting colors for us are those we don't like, because there lies our path to transformation and to development.
Yes.
If you take in the colors you don't like, you can become a whole being and multicolored and free, etc. I think. Yes, so we are having a lot of quite some thank yous to all the panelists, to Christiane, to Lynn, to Montaha, to Kaustav, and also to me. Thanks a lot. It's such a joy being here, and I think we have experienced the joy and the diversity of color today, then here we have another remark of Karl Rixje. He says it was the most colorful office in the company globally. Maybe that was about you, Montaha.
Yes, that's true, because Carl and I were working for the same company.
Yeah. Yes, okay, so I see here another question. Do you think that young people are conscious of the colors they wear, or do they just follow more and more the fashions offered by the big companies? Who wants to answer?
I can take that, or part of it.
Yes.
I think the answer is both of them. A lot of kids and young people, they will follow the trends because these are the colors that are available in the market. But obviously they have a choice. My niece has a twin. They are 7 years old. And each of them, they know exactly what colors they like and dislike. One of them, and I was talking to them 2 days ago, and I asked the question, because every time I talk to them, I ask, what's your preferred color? Because it keeps changing, right? And so the latest trend for them, one of them, the first color is black. I mean, she's 7. So there is black, and there is purple, and there is blue, and it's like it's a bouquet of colors, which is very interesting, because we think in general, and we have been talking about this, that we always have one preferred color. But kids tells us this is not only really one color that we like. There are many colors, but sometimes we are, for, like Kaustav said, for an unknown reason, which is a subconscious reason, we will be leaning towards one color more than others, but in the background we have more than one color.
Yeah.
Maybe I will add here, because it's interesting question. And I used to work for a brand called Lien, and interestingly, I have been handling the children, especially the youngsters, for quite some time. I teach in a fashion college for past 20 years. And interestingly, in brands like Nike, we used to do something called deep dive of their wardrobe. And when you just look at the wardrobe of young people, you will see that in the eye level, they keep those products which are trendy. So those garments, they just want to show off that they are trendy. So those colors will be in the eye level, but those most liked colors, or the color which actually reflects them, will be in the second level or third level, where they will wear it to only them who they want to open up and show what they are. So normally we all do that we do have a set of colors which we would like to show that we belong to a trendy generation, but we do like our own color, which evolves as such, which we behold. For example, somebody will be more towards blues, somebody will be more towards pinks. And as Montaha said, I also have a child who is 14 years. She's all in blacks. So, interestingly, because I mean, you have seen a Korean impact, you have seen a K-pop, you have seen, we at one time, we flood all the girl child with pink. And at one time, when they are becoming, teen, they start revolting, saying that we don't like any more pink. I want to go back and just total opposite to pink. I want to go for a rebellious black. So, but that color, they will only bring to them, and they might be showing to their friends. But when they're going to parties, they'll always go for a trendy color, which is now trending. So yes, it varies from time to time and whom they are showing off. It depends on that also.
Okay, so we still have some more questions to work on. Munir is asking, do you think eyes of people can tell anything about their personalities? Maybe Christiane, do you want to answer that?
You mean the color of the eyes?
Do you think eyes of people can tell anything about their personalities? Yes, the colors. The colors.
I mean, eyes can tell a lot about personality in my eyes. And I'm not sure whether the color plays a big part, but usually we have the impression that blue or light eyes more, let's say, express more emotions, and darker colors are more, more a miracle or something like that. So I wouldn't do it with colors and say, no, I wouldn't. But I think eyes are speaking a lot, and you can see the personality through the eyes. And they are really talking eyes.
May I add something to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, first of all, the colors of our eyes are genetic. Nobody
Yes,
has
that's true.
control over what colors are our eyes, but how people look at them, it's a perception, right? So we have a tendency to see people with black eyes, like I have very dark eyes. They are very mysterious because they are.
Yeah.
It's a poignant color, right? It's in your face. But people with lighter color, eye colors, they give the impression that they are more soothing to look at, like it's not scary, right? And so no, I mean, there are, like Christiane said, your eyes tell a lot about you, but it's how you perceive the color. That's a different story. But I wouldn't judge people by the color of their eyes.
Yes, here comes another one. Can you speak to the impact of wearing uniform of certain color? How this may or may not impact one's wardrobe choices or ability to select authentic colors? So I will start this one. So if you look at color theory regarding personal color consulting, actually there are only 4 colors in the wide range and universe of colors that suit everybody, only 4. So what does it mean if people have to wear uniforms? Mostly many of them have to wear a color that do not suit them. And this can bring kind of a psychological overload of this color and brings kind of the impact that after that, mostly these people don't like this color anymore, because wearing color has an influence on the aura. So it can be very positive for the person, but it can be, speaking color really can be, of course, kind of wrong. So the influence on the wardrobe choice is that it can happen that the person doesn't like it anymore. And our ability to select authentic colors has to do with how close you are to yourself, I would say. If you are saying yes to yourself, the probability of choosing colors that are really yours is higher. But people who are running after fashion trends and do not know themselves enough have a higher probability of choosing wrong colors that do not suit them. But I would like to ask you, Christiane, as a color consultant, what is your experience?
The same, Gabrielle, but I can add something to it. In my consultations, I'm always asking likes and dislikes of colors. And one time there came a woman and she said, "Don't talk about blue, I just hate it." And I always am asking, why do you hate this color? And she said, I was going to school and I had to wear a school uniform and this was blue. So I don't like blue. And this was another story. There was another woman, she said, no red at all. And I was asking and she said, we were 4 children at home. One, has the towel and the toothbrush and everything in red, the other in green, blue, and so on. And I was the red kid, but I so much wanted to be the blue kid. So this is how also color dislikes can come into existence.
Yes.
I think it's also related to kind of a superstition at certain level. For example, in India, we don't have any school uniform in the color black. I don't know about the other countries, but in India, we don't have a school children's uniform in black. And nobody dares to wear a black shirt to go for an exam. because, I mean, it's kind of a, understanding or perception of color. I have handled a very interesting scenario in a government school, same as what Christian was explaining. In India, the school dropout rate is very high, especially in government school. The children drops out in a very young age from the school. So we are trying to understand why the children are dropping out. Then we understood the garment, the uniform what they wear, is almost similar to the color of the police, and they hate police. So especially in the slum and then in the underprivileged area, they all hate police at certain scenarios, the dictatorship, what happens at certain areas. So the moment you start giving that color in the school, they start hating school. So we change that color uniform as such. So yes, color can impact at large when it comes to uniforms scenarios. Yeah.
So here comes a nice question from Velimir from Zagreb. Do women's eyes change color when they are in love?
And men's.
And men's. Who wants to answer that? Well, I guess yes.
I would say yes too.
Yes.
When we are in love, obviously we have our emotions are on a very high level and we want to show our emotions, so we will tend to use bright colors. We will go for very red lipsticks if we are a female. Obviously males, maybe it's a different story, but for females, there is this, all of a sudden, this boom of brightness in their wardrobe. Definitely, yes.
Yes, may I add something to it? You also can enhance the color of your eyes. For instance, when you have green eyes and you are wearing green, so it's reflecting to your eyes again and they become even a bit greener. So this is also one aspect. But yes.
I also want to add here, saying that being a man, I would like to add here, that I think it also depends on the person who is seeing your eyes. Yeah. And then the color comes in that person because he or the person or she is seeing that eye. So I think the color should change on their perception towards the eye they are seeing. And I think that happens when somebody is in love.
Oh, that's a lovely comment. Thank you, Kaustav. That reminds me of what Goethe said. The process of seeing does not only depend on the outer light that we need to see, that is reflected by the object so that we are able to see. The process of seeing also depends on the inner light, so that the object that is seen is seen because of the inner light that shines on it together with the outer light. So that would be your answer. Yes. So
right, and also when we are in love, for instance, we will tend to wear the color that the other person that we love likes, even if maybe we don't like it.
Yes, right. I know from color consulting and from color psychology, actually, there are the colors red and blue. Red is actually recognized as more a young color from the energy, like it's more the male color, and blue would be more the female color, the more receptive color. And it's known and observed that actually men and women love to see their colors on the other. The most sexy color for women is red because it's the male color that the men love to see on them. And women love to see their color blue on men. That's also interesting.
That's also very interesting because I was reading and I was just finding that red is one of the basic color, and that's a basic simple instinct color because men likes it in that sense, whereas blue is a little bit exotic color because preparing blue has been difficult in the whole genre of colors. So women would like to see that reflected on the persona which comes in the love, So understanding of color also depends on what we are expecting from that person to be in that context as such. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And Krishna says in fashion industry, it is the magic word matching or matching.
I think this was written when Christiane mentioned that if you want to enhance the green color of your eyes, you can wear green, and that will obviously reflect, and it's true.
Yeah. So, and here's a comment from Elma. Looks like all ladies here are in love, all wearing bright, beautiful colors. Thank you. Yes, we are in love, and for sure, I guess we're in love with colors. Yes, so if there are any other questions, we are getting lovely feedback here, great conversation. I have to run. Thank you for bringing magic. Yes, and lots of thank yous we have received. So I think we are now well in time, maybe to stop. We could go on endless, and I think thanks a lot. It was a wonderful experience about the beauty of color and the many levels of colors speaking to us and having impacts on us as humans. Thanks a lot all for being here. You will receive the recording. And I want to mention our next two events. Today in 2 weeks, November 30, we are going to have another fascinating panel on color, light, and self-awareness. It's at 7 p.m. Central European Time. And on December 14th, also Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central European Time, we are going to have color, light, and healing, color, light for health.